Hello there, and welcome to an Ignite Press book launch livecast. My name is Everett O'Keefe. I am the founder and president of Ignite Press, and I'm excited because today we have a really special author with us today who's got really an incredible story, a truly improbable story, as you will hear. Before we get started, we here at Ignite Press specialize in helping people take their messages to the world through the most powerful medium ever created, and that is through books. And if you've got a book in mind, reach out to us at ignitepress.us, where we'd be happy to have a conversation with you about your book, about your message. All right, well, let's get to the main event. I want to introduce you to someone who has gone through just amazing things in his journey to truly experience the American dream from an immigrant's standpoint. And it is documented beautifully in this book. This is An Improbable Life, An Immigrant's Journey to CEO and the American Dream by Sankar Sewnauth. So let's get Sankar on here. Hello, Sankar. How are you doing today?
Hi, Everett. How are you?
And this is a big day. Congratulations on the launch of your book. I know this has been a long time coming for you.
It really has. It's the word that comes. It's really been a journey, and all I kept thinking about today is that it's finally here. It just seemed like it was going to take forever because when you start, you never know when it's going to end. But with your guidance and the help of your staff and the people who you're associated with, I think we all work together, and it's not an easy process, and you need the help, and I'm really grateful for you guys helping me through the last year.
Well, thank you, and thanks for trusting us with this. I mean, this is your story. This is like sacred to you, and I'm grateful that you trusted us with it. And also a shout out to General Robert Mixon for the introduction. I think that thanks go there as well. Well,
Right.
Sankar, I want to, we normally start these things out asking about your background before we dive into the content of the book. In this case, your background is the content of the book, and I would love for you to start to tell us your story and how you got to this place. Let's start young because you didn't your beginnings are not the same as the typical person's beginnings here in the States.
For sure, it's not. And thanks for the question, Everett. When you want to do your life story, it really takes you through a process of really examining your life. And do you want to be vulnerable? Do you want to say things that you wouldn't normally say? Do you want to give people insights into who you are, your family? And I felt that because I had gone through so much looking back, I'm now 68 years old, that I had to tell the whole story. And even though when we finished the first draft of the book was about 500 pages and we had to cut it back down, it's that journey of thinking through what is it that you want to say. And I do have this special journey from the third world where living conditions, relationships were difficult for me personally. And being able to share that was almost cathartic for me, to be able to face those things that I experienced in my life as a child, and then my teenage years and the dynamics within our family, and then our journey to the US. I wanted to capture that for the reader so you can see the journey I had. And also people that know me will say, oh, maybe that's why he was the way he was. The one word I use that people always say, Sankar, you're a very complicated man. And when you read the book, it probably will be true. It's a very complicated story. But like anything that you can accomplish in your life and with success, it's never an easy road as far as I'm concerned. It's always life throwing you obstacles in the way. And for those of us who have faith, the trials that come your way, that you have to overcome all of those. And making the journey to the US making a decision. There was a decision point when I was 20 years old, and decided that I did not want to have the rest of my life be working in a factory. And what would I do for myself? And back then you didn't have coaches, mentors. You were here as an immigrant. You're thrown into life in the United States, in New York City, and then you really had to figure it out. And then that journey took me to Kansas, to Rochester, and then I landed on the job at CDS Life Transitions, which has been just a wonderful journey for me. Helping that organization, turning it around, and then enjoying a wonderful career.
Well, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to Guyana. What was that like growing up in Guyana? And at what age did you move to the States, and under
Yeah,
what circumstances?
yeah. Great question. Guyana, when you look at the map of Guyana, Guyana is on the northern tip of South America, and there are three Guyanas, British, French, and Dutch. And we were British Guyana. Guyana gained independence from the British in 1966. And the population lived on the coast, the Atlantic Ocean, right on the coast. And people lived in settlements that the British created because they owned the sugarcane factories. And sugarcane and rice are the major crops in Guyana. And so people came, just from my history as an Indian, East Indian, my forefathers came to Guyana. The British brought them on what they called an indentured labor system, where you came and you were promised to make a lot of money, and then it didn't turn out that way. And so these are all hard workers that worked in the fields, and they lived with their families there. And that was my surrounding as a child. We went to a British school system, elementary school, and from elementary school, you went into high school, and then there was nothing really beyond high school. Teachers in Guyana would have done well in high school, and then they went into teaching. And for me personally, our home was very challenged because both my mother and father felt like they needed to work. Now, the traditional Indian family, it is one where the fathers worked and the mother stayed at home and took care of the kids. But in our household, my mother wanted more for us, but that created a whole set of problems in our home. I have four siblings, three sisters and a brother, and one has passed on. But life growing up in Guyana was one where you had to do your part. You had to you do whatever is demanded of you, and make your way through. Every one of us has struggles, and we have to get through those struggles. And I was lucky enough to be able to leave Guyana, go to Trinidad to go to a college, which was a most improbable thing that happened. And that's why you see the theme for my book is an improbable life, because from my birth, which I described in the book, it was said among our family members that I shouldn't have lived, and I did. And then when we went to the American Embassy when I was 20 years old, and my sister had sponsored my mom and my little sister and I to come to the U.S., it was a miracle that we went to the appointment without all the papers, and we were able to have a visa to come to the United States. And then through my life, having the health issues when I came here. But as you said, let's talk when you talk about the childhood, it was one of a very demanding childhood for children. And it was the same for a lot of people, but especially in our home, there was a lot of demand, and I had to deal with it. And it's in the book. Read the book, and you will see. I don't want to give it all away, but it was not a traditional home. We had our difficulties, but I'm so proud to be able to say that all the children, our parents sacrificed so much, and we all came to America, and we've done really well. Voice. Everett, check your voice.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I had me muted. Thank you. You've had multiple big inflection points in your life, uh,
Yeah.
and some were related to moving to the States, some were education. I know in your book you talk about the inflection point of your family in New York and your choice about whether to work in a really, I don't know if sweatshop's the right proper term for it, but some of the options you had in New York versus getting the heck out. And what a tough decision that was. Another inflection point you describe in your book happens when you came to, I don't know if it was to Rochester, but you came to New York there, yeah, upper New York. And tell us about that. Like you started truly at the bottom of the ladder when it came
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
CMS. So
And that theme of experiencing life in the most improbable ways. We were living in Kansas. We were living a long way from family. My wife's family, Yvonne's family, lived in Toronto. My family lived in New York City, and living in Kansas was a very lonely life for us. And when our children were born, Abigail, and as soon as Andrew was born, I said, we're going to make a move. And we talked it over and we said, okay, where do we want to move to? And we had no idea. We didn't want to move to New York City. We didn't want to move to Toronto. And the next best thing I thought about was, from a proximity standpoint, was to move to Buffalo. But then I went to job service looking for work to say, what if we moved in the area, where would we work? And they said, you really need to go to Rochester. We didn't know anything about Rochester. Just drove there, visited, fell in love with this little town called Rochester, New York. Clean city, welcoming city. But one thing I noticed right away um, was you had to have a job to get anything anywhere. And by quitting my job in Kansas and making the move without having a job here first, I really was in a huge predicament as to what do I do with my family. I'm here. And the first thing we had to do was find housing. And we literally, back then, you didn't have a cell phone. You had to go and get the newspaper. And we came in on a Monday morning, grabbed the newspaper, looked at places to live, a lot of apartments. And the most improbable thing happened at the end of that day, when I was turned away from just about everywhere because I didn't have a job. And this one landlord asked a question that I hadn't had all day and said, how would you pay for the year? And we had savings. I was able to show him. And thankfully, he gave us an apartment, a townhouse in the city of Rochester. My daughter was having some issues with hearing and speech, Abigail, and I went to the Al Siegel Center in Rochester that housed all of the nonprofit organizations, including the Hearing and Speech Center. And while she was having her tests done, I was roaming the hallways, and I landed on a poster that showed one of the organizations that serve people with special needs. They were looking for frontline workers, and that changed our life. That changed our life tremendously. And I wrote about our life, ever coming to Rochester without health care, and um, having to face the fact that if I wanted health care, I needed to apply for welfare. And it's something I felt horrible about. I felt somewhat humiliated for being in a position to have to apply for welfare. But I had to suck it up and I had to go do that. And every day we were on welfare was a day I was unhappy. Every day I was thinking about what I would do next and how do I get off of this. Even though I paid my taxes for 10 years, I still felt like welfare was not for me and my family, and I was highly motivated. And that led me to that poster. I went and I was fortunate enough to get that job. And as soon as I got the job, I notified Department of Social Services, and I got off of welfare. And our life took off from there. So it was the early days, very stressful, but the improbable things happened to allow us to move forward from poverty to raising our family out of poverty and making our way in America. And my children helped along the way. If I think about it at that point, if Abigail did not have that hearing problem or that speech problem, who would have? Who knows what would have happened? We probably wouldn't have been in Rochester. But life of we found our way. Life worked out.
Well, and this is one of that recurring theme of how improbable this is. And like you said,
Yeah,
had that not happened, this would not have have happened. Well, I want to point out for everyone that Sankar's book, An Improbable Life, is available now on Amazon in paperback and in Kindle, and you can pick that up. And this is also a terrific gift to give to somebody. So if you're going to buy one, buy two, and make it a gift to somebody else. Now, Sankar, let's skip a bit to to more recent times, because from those humble beginnings and from that entry level position there, you improbably ascended all the way through the top of this organization,
yeah.
and then helped dramatically improve and increase the size and the services of that organization. Can you take us to where you were last year?
Yeah,
And
2 years ago. It's been
yeah,
2 years since I've retired. And the journey was 25 years in the making. And when I joined CDS, at the time, they had 9 group homes. We called them residences. We had 2-day programs. We had an employment program. And we had a case management program. And uh, the organization had such a strong history of serving the most vulnerable in our society, which are people with intellectual disabilities. And I can't say enough about Lou and Phyllis Wolf, the founders of CDS. They committed their whole life to this organization because of their son, Daryl, and all of the other families that joined in with Lou and Phyllis. But when I joined the organization, it was in real trouble, and I chronicle that in the book. But in that 25 years, we were able to take it from a $16 million company with no finances, was really the finances were in shambles, be able to turn around the organization, and then committed to a vision, which was growth and diversification, making sure people had the best environments to live and that they were appropriately placed. And we didn't shy away from anyone that needed services, whether it was an quote easy case or a difficult case. It didn't matter to CDS, and that was part of the culture that we kept. But we also wanted to uplift the environments, and one of the sayings I have, Everett, is that you do it right or you just don't do it. And so that transformed the organization because we upgraded all of our facilities. We increased tuition reimbursements to our staff. We encourage our staff to go to school for higher learning, just across the board, from the HR and compensation to our physical environments to the services we provided. We just went on a tear for 25 years, growing and diversifying the company. And we went from one company, CDS, to CDS Monarch. And then now, I think by the time I left, we had 10 companies. A very diversified organization, running a healthcare company, a spice packaging facility for the military, affordable housing communities, all up in upstate New York, and now in Florida. The organization has just now become a leader and a very respected organization in our community and communities in upstate New York and in Florida. So it's been a heck of a journey. I wrote in the book that I had this desire to excel, and there was this uneasiness. And I reflected on reading a Harvard Business Review journal about 20 years ago, and they asked the question of CEOs, what drives you? What's one of those qualities you have as a CEO that wasn't born in the US? And predominantly the response that came back was everybody felt a deep sense of insecurity. And that resonated with me because my whole life in the US has been about feeling terribly insecure, never showed it, but internally, I was going through this terrible insecurity, knowing that in America, we're going through race issues, that if you were not Caucasian, that you would have to double up and work harder than everybody else. And now our country has gone so far now to making sure everybody has a place at the table and we all feel very included. But I was going through those transitions, but it didn't stop me, whether I faced bias in society or I faced obstacles. There were people that were placed in my life that helped me. And there were things that I just give credit to God for working and helping me through all of it. I've had some serious medical issues. And just think about it, 23 years ago, I had quintuple bypass surgery, heart bypass. And then 17 years later, to learn that those bypasses were all occluded, meaning they were all blocked. And then being able to continue to live without having any more intervention, because my heart reorganized. The technical word the doctors use is my heart recalibrated and revascularized. And to be able to have those improbable things happen to you just reaffirmed my belief that I had a place on this earth, that God put me here for a purpose. And my mission has been to serve our most vulnerable citizens. And we expanded the mission to serve veterans, seniors, people with chronic illnesses. And from serving about 600 people with intellectual disabilities in 1998, we now touch, I think Andrew, my son, who now runs the company, they say they now touch 17,000 lives. So it's been a remarkable journey.
That is absolutely incredible. Speaking of Andrew, I think he's watching right now because I just saw this comment come through. Very proud of Sankar's accomplishments and journey as a father and community leader. His grandchildren love spending time with him. So,
I have to say, at this stage of my life, to have my 4 grandchildren in my life and to be around them is my highest priority. My highest priority in my life right now is to spend every day I can with these 4 special people. And for that, I have to be thankful to Andrew and his beautiful wife, Emmy, for having us have these kids from time to time. And we love them to death.
Well, that's fantastic. Sankar, thank you for your time today here. And we're excited about the book launch and about to watch what happens with it and to see how everything goes there. It's been an honor to get to know you. If people want to reach you, is your email address the best way for us to?
Yes.
Let me put that into the chat log there that people can access that. Sankar, thanks again for your time today. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
On the book. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us today for this book launch livecast. As a reminder, you can pick up the paperback or the Kindle today on Amazon, where they are available there. Grab your copy for sure. And then if you've got a story that you'd like to share with the world or your message that needs to get out to the world, reach out to us at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. And I'd be happy to sit down and have a conversation with you. So take care. Thank you again for joining us today.